Anything on, yes?
That's not,
We all set? Bob, you on?
If I turn on my audio, I am. Yeah. Hi, everybody.
Turn your audio
Hi.
on.
Nice to see you all.
But now he's very faint. Can't hear him.
I'm very. Oh, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Don, you all set?
you're muted, Don.
No.
Don, you're muted. There we go.
Okay.
Hi, Don.
I'm
All
here.
right.
Turn up volume, yeah.
Anything under public comment? Or members? Because we have no public here.
There's plenty of public here, in here.
Oh, that's what I was asking, who was on,
Oh, okay. well,
Who
we
was
don't
in the
have a
waiting room?
We just have the, yeah, but
All
there
right.
is somebody who is asking to be recognized for public comment. It's
okay, who is it?
Arcamano.
Lauren? All right, Lauren?
Hi, good evening, gentlemen and ladies. I just want to say, as the first time viewer, I can't see who the other people are in the meeting room. Is that typical for your meetings?
Yes, it is typical. Only people who are panelists are able to share their screens.
No, I'm not looking for sharing screens. I'm just looking. Usually, I can see a list of who is in the meeting.
Oh.
What other members of the public?
No, that is not offered in this format.
Is that within open meeting law?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else under public comment? Seeing none, move on. Brian Stern?
He must be in that long
Can
list.
you hear me?
Oh, there he is.
Yes.
And can you see me?
No. Do you want to be seen?
Sure.
Okay, then I'm going to have to promote you to panelist, so when you see that on your screen, please accept it. He has disappeared. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Is it good?
Yes, we can't see you yet, but, all right, there you are. Okay,
Okay. And you can hear me.
yes.
We can hear
You
you
can see
and we
me.
can see you.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
have the
I
floor.
thought this would be a good place to sit, but it looks like there's a ugly picture. Is that bothering anybody? We're good to go?
Yes.
Okay, so Jerry, I just want to thank you for letting me come to the planning board meeting. I do have a presentation that I'd like to present. Before I jump into it, I really want to thank you, Jerry, for allowing me to come and talk. You know, I tried to do this last year, and then we had the Zoom outage, so it didn't work. That was quite frustrating. And one of the points I want to make, Jerry, is when I've heard you speak before in front of the town, I get the sense that we are very, very aligned. And so I want to just basically articulate that. I love to hear you speak about Wellfleet. It brings warmth to my heart, and I think and I think we're very much aligned. I want to thank the other members of the planning board for talking to them today and allowing me to speak. I'm obviously here because I think things are amiss. I got to be honest, I think things are amiss, and I'd want to make sure that we do what I think is appropriate for Wellfleet. Simply stated, I'm not aligned with the plan that the Maurice Campground Planning Committee has come up with. I am not aligned with their vision, and I'm not aligned with their strategy. And I'm not want to try to put words in Jerry's mouth, but I will be talking about some of the things that Jerry said in the past. And so I just want to have the ability to dialogue and exchange. And right now, that's really hard to do with the current situation with the Maurice Planning Committee. It's difficult and frustrating. I don't expect any decisions to be made from today's meeting, but I hope I can open up and you guys can start think about some of the things that I think we should be talking about. My first slide is going to say I want to vote yes, and you're going to see that on the first slide. And what I mean by that is I am 100% in favor of getting housing on the Maurice Campground project. I think that we just need to make sure that we have a good strategy in place and a tactical plan that's implemented for the right people. And I really think that my thought is we need to put Wellfleet first. The entire presentation will take about 30 minutes. I hope that's okay, Jerry.
It is.
And maybe I can go back and forth with a little bit of it. The other comment I want to make is, of course, the minute I send a presentation, I updated it, and so I did, Beth and/or Jennifer, I did send just about 5 minutes ago an updated one because I saw you showing it. If not, that's the only way we can do it, I understand that. But again, I just emailed something to you. So if you got it, fine, Tomas. But if not, we'll just go forward with what I had. Any comment on that? Should I just use what you have up, or can you go with what I just sent?
If you're okay with it, I can download it. It's up to you.
I would like you to download it. It's just things are in a slightly different sequence. And again, I apologize. I thought I was going to be able to control it from my end, and it's funny. I'll be honest. If I pull up the first slide, if I hit this, are you seeing the presentation?
Let me get over this first one.
Okay. Okay.
Usually, we would not take anything after 12 o'clock on Thursday. However,
Right.
as I'm thinking about this, there was a presentation presented and sent out to all of the board members regarding probably 95 to 100% of what you're going to talk about, maybe just changing a few things.
Yeah.
The subject matter remains the same.
Yes.
What we're talking about, the project remains the same. So unless I have from board members any problems, I'm going to let it go and use the new format. However, board members, do you have any problem?
I don't know.
This is his presentation
Right, but he's updated it slightly
since
that's, yes.
I am.
Well,
Then can we have the updated version in a hurry?
Oh, he can present it. And
He's
I
gonna
can
present it.
make Copies for you.
Oh, I sent it to you. If you can download it, if you can
Are
hear
there
me still.
significant changes, Brian?
No, not really. Just some order of some sequences, some different verbiage. If you want to, again, I can stay with what you have. I just think, and I've taken some notes. I just want to make sure that, messaging, et cetera. So again, I'm comfortable. I just want to make sure at the end of the day, you get what I think is the right presentation. And but in any case, I think that honestly, the one in front of you, can I just jokingly say, does it say January 2025 on that slide you're looking at, the very first page?
The one I have in front of me is January 21st.
25.
Yeah, but 2025?
yeah.
Yeah, see, the wrong date. So that's silly. But again, I want to make sure I get it right.
I'll tell you what, can we go with what we have,
Yes.
and at the end,
I've already
I
sent
mean,
it to Jennifer
this
and Beth
isn't
and
going
you,
to be,
Jerry.
it doesn't have to be exact of what you've got written, because if
No,
it's
no.
exact, we can read it and we don't need it. So it's your
Right.
presentation and input at this point. So if you want
Okay.
to, so long as you're following it fairly closely,
Yeah, we'll do that. I may
We'll
go
be
ask you to
fine.
go back and forth. So you guys are going to control how the presentation goes, the order of sequencing. I'll just say, next slide, please. Is that the way it's going to work?
We can do that, or you can share your screen. You've been given the capability to share your screen as a panelist, so what do you prefer?
I can share my screen and then go with the other presentation, right? The one I just sent. Oh, no. You want me to, I don't have the other one up.
Okay, then yes, we'll do the slides.
Okay, thank you. Apologize for anybody who's been watching. Okay. All right. So again, Wellfleet Planning Committee meeting. Again, let's create a sustainable solution for the Maurice Campground. Again, I want to vote yes. One of the things I put on this slide also is I think we want to get, by sustainable, that means generational housing. Obviously, though, and we'll get the right date on it, but you can go to the next slide, please. We're gonna go to the next slide for a second. Okay, so I want to start off with this slide, and again, as I said already, I think things are a little awry, and that we should be thinking about other opportunities and different strategy options and additional brainstorming. So when I say are these common goals, I think that these are common goals. I'm just going to say between, at least I would believe they are between Jerry and myself, maybe other board members. Again, we want to help lower-wage employees that are so critical to the vital community. We want to help the missing middle, plumbers, electricians. We want to help town employees find housing. That includes the DPW workers, the teachers, the people working in the offices. We want to include the shell fishermen who are required to live in Wellfleet. We want to have workforce housing. We want to fill our schools. We want to limit the control and tax burden. We want to keep Wellfleet rural. And again, I said we need a sustainable path. I would say that these are my goals. I actually think, listening to Jerry speak, that these are his goals. But I got to be honest, I don't think that these are the Maurice Campground Planning Committee goals. And I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, because the reality is we have a democratic process, and the democratic process at the end of the day is going to define what are the critical things that we want to be working on. So the people on the Maurice Campground Committee have what I would say is a different set of goals. For example, I don't have listed a commercial property on the front of Route 6. That to me is not one of the goals. I think that should be incorporated. I also think you're going to be able to say that the shell fishermen right now is not part of the Maurice Campground plan. So again, I'm just pointing out, at the end of the day, we want to really clarify and strategize on what the right goals are and to develop a plan for that. So can you go back down to the second slide, please? Thank you. So I am officially requesting help from the planning board. I don't know what that means, but it's a plea for help. Tonight, I'm a concerned citizen. I'm coming by myself to talk to the town about the needs. Again, I've already said, and I'm going to talk more. I am aligned with the planning board, at least Jerry's vision. Wellfleet housing is extremely complicated, and it requires immediate attention. So again, I do not want, please don't anybody think I don't want a plan that goes forward to meet Wellfleet's requirements. We need generational housing. Again, I would say that the Maurice Campground plan is missing the mark. And unfortunately, and it's just really challenging, it's hard to engage with the Maurice Planning Committee. Now, I believe, Bob, you may be part of that committee, or I believe you are. And so, again, I look forward to getting your dialogue and understanding. I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. We, at the end of the day, have to figure out what the right strategy is, or what our right priorities are to move forward. The next line item is, I assume everybody on the planning board knows that this is written into the plan, into the town charter. The planning board shall make recommendations to the town meeting and to the town administrator on all matters concerning physical, economic, and environmental development of the town. The planning board shall exercise such powers and duties as prescribed by, I'm not sure what MGL is, this charter and bylaws. So simply I'm stating, I think you guys have a role that you can play. It's not clear to me exactly what power you have. But again, I think that you guys are leaders in the town, And again, hopefully after this presentation, you at least understand where I'm coming from. So again, I'm asking for your help. I'm trying to figure out what other alternatives we can come up. You guys are planners. I think you have the skill sets to look at development. So again, I'm repeating, I don't want to vote no. I want a plan that I can vote yes. So can you go to slide 4 now, I think? Thank you. So this is the Maurice Campground Studio G proposal. At this point, I'm not going to get into many details, but there's a lot of discussions, pros and cons, and some of the things I'm thinking about. Where are the people going to work in the summer? Sorry, in the winter. Obviously, in the summer we're going to be working. What impact will it have on our wetlands? Is water going to be available? Does the plan provide the needs for Wellfleet? There's a myriad of other issues that I want to get into. This may not be the exact final. Nobody please put a gun to my head. The Loop Bay 253, I think they may have had some modifications, but this is essentially 95%, I believe, accurate as it relates to the current plan that they are moving forward with. Next slide, please. So the planning board, I apologize, Jerry, if I'm putting you on the spot. I'm going to embarrass you in a second. But I have looked through multiple of videos. Again, things are recorded in these meetings. And Jerry, I know that on 6/25/2025, you were asked specifically, what is your vision for Wellfleet? And so I am taking some of these specific, and the picture down below are the people in the room. This is, again, with the select board. These are some of your comments. We want to keep Wellfleet rural. We protect it. It went to we're a low-key rural town. Wellfleet is one of the last bastions of rural Cape Cod. We protected Route 6, our town center. God bless the National Seashore. I am 100% aligned with this. And again, I thank you for making that comment. And again, it was a critical time when I believe you were coming back up for your position. And so again, I really appreciate you being, again, to align with, I think a lot of people have this view. Next slide, please. On January 15th, 2025, the planning committee, Marie's planning committee, met with the planning board. And I believe that this was a planning board meeting. And so again, I went back to the video and I extracted some comments and quotes and others. And again, I'd like to walk through those. These are kind of Jerry's comments and some from other people, but I think mostly Jerry. Fast track is concerning and not appropriate. We should run the project in phases. We should be looking at habitat, build equity and ownership. We should be looking at duplexes and triplexes. Who are we getting the housing for? We need to focus on Wellfleet first. Firemen, shell fishermen, medical, town employees. I can tell you my personal opinion is we need to be focusing more energy and effort, not so much away from the affordable, but clearly I think more towards the attainable. Both are critically important, and I think Jerry's comment here, firemen, shell fishermen, again, which should not include medical, those are the people who are part of the attainable. Potentially can potentially Wellfleet float a bond will focus on housing for Wellfletians. I know for a fact that I had this discussion with other people way back when, and why can't we float a bond? This is the way things used to be done. Have Wellfleet pay for it. We then figure out and strategize in terms of exactly who's going to go into the housing. And again, I think this is an important point and one that we should be brainstorming on and figure out why it can't be done and versus saying it can't be done or why it can be done, figure out how to do it. You've also asked the planning board to form subcommittees. You're very clear, and I have two quotes on the next slide. You've asked for subcommittees with the police department, the fire department, the planning board, the board of health, the conservation, to get along with the Morris planning committee. And you'll show in a second that I might as well say no. I don't believe that that's happened. I think it's very unfortunate, and it saddens me that it hasn't happened because I really do think we'll have a better plan if we did that. You talk about the raw land for future use is negligible. But then you say, the cinema and the drive-in are already commercially zoned, and so we have to make sure that we think about what's happening in all these different regions, and some of the ramifications that we are doing in the Maurice project will have influence in terms of what's going to happen at the cinema and the drive-in, and I'll articulate that more in a second. You talk about the long-term concern on water. That's clearly a lot of people's concern. There was some really interesting write-up in the P-Town paper in terms of water between Truro and P-Town and the various projects that are going in there. And you also talk about planning of open space. So I think, again, your comments that you're making here are one of thinking about it from a holistic and let's strategize and let's prioritize and let's figure out who we're doing it for. And I love the comment, keep Wellfleet first. So next slide, please. So again, I said there were some quotes, and I'm not trying to, well, maybe I am trying to talk about a specific point. You more than once in that meeting asked the planning board to get it right, and you basically said, I'm going to read these, get the prime departments together, this is from Jerry, so we can get quicker answers to help as a committee get ultimately a better plan and a better RFP. That's a nice quote there. I think David Mead Fox, who I believe is no longer on the committee, let me read his also. I like Jerry's idea of a subcommittee because there can be maybe 6 to 8 people from 6 to 8 boards and get them involved. I honestly believe as soon as possible, right away, because we certainly understand the design guidelines are only design guidelines, but they do set the stage for everything else. I don't know what the developers are going to propose, but we do know that the developers are going to use the guidelines as their Bible in a way as a starting point. So again, you did try and push for creating subcommittees, and I applaud you for doing that. And again, I think that has not happened, and I'm moving forward as if it hasn't. If it has, then that'd be great, because then we have a better solution. Next slide, please. So this is a slide where I have a lot of points on it, and I'm going to stay on this slide for a second to keep within the time frame. What my recommendation is that I walk through these points, and we can go back to any one of them at the end of the presentation. The first point I would make is why 250 units? They commented 460 people in Wellfleet who need housing. I believe that data is not confirmed, and I would push back on that. I believe the initial plan presented by Studio G only had 200 units. I do have a copy of a document presented by or prepared by Studio G. I think almost immediately went from 200 up to 300 units. And there were people in the campground committee who thought that even 350 was the right number. I would say through efforts like from myself and other people in the town, we were able to get it back to 250, but I still think 250 density is extremely high, and I think the ratio of what makes up that 250 is concerning. So I'm going to go to the next item, number 2. What is your take on the 175 units of affordable housing? My personal take is affordable housing is absolutely critical. We need to figure out how to support housing for the people who are low income in the area, in Truro, in P-Town, to help them out. However, too much of anything is not really a good thing. We only need 100 units to get to that 40B requirement. Anything above 100 units then skews other priorities from looking at maybe we need more opportunities for the shell fishermen, or maybe we need other opportunities for more attainable, which I clearly do. So again, by maximizing affordable in line of the other priorities that we have, I think things are missing the mark. I also suggest that we look at Lawrence Hill, and right now things are kind of interesting in terms of what's moving forward at Lawrence Hill. I have some personal comments on Lawrence Hill. I might as well get them off my chest. One of the things that I'm concerned about Lawrence Hill is the AMI settings for the single-bedroom units versus the 3-bedroom units. The single-bedroom units were all set at the highest AMI level. In other words, an artist, a single person trying to scrape by in Wellfleet will not get into those units. At the same token, a teacher with a family of 3, because those 3-bedroom units are set at the low AMI level, will not get into those units. When I saw how those were presented, I kind of put my hands up in the air and scratched and said, well, we'll see how this thing turns out. But the reality is when you go through and you look at how these programs are worked, it's a little concerning that we're going to rely on that. My next comment, number 3, is again, what's your take on the Maurice Campground Planning Committee? I kind of apologize, not really. My take is it's a stacked deck. That from the very beginning, the planning committee was made up from people who were part of the housing groups who were very, very focused on affordable, less focused on attainable, and I've had some specific discussions on that. So I also believe there's no young people on the committee. There's no shell fishermen on the committee. There's no young people on the committee. And so, again, I could use other comments. I'll use stack deck to be nice. But I'm not sure what we can do about it moving forward. But I think that the people who are in charge are going to make the decisions, and I'm concerned about that. Item number 4 is what your take on the seasonal community designation. My personal take, is this could be an absolute game changer. It's going to allow for small houses. It's going to allow for a bunch of things that we couldn't do before. And I think we need to wait and really understand how this is going to play out before we move forward with a specific plan. However, my concern is that I guess I'm skipping one. What is item 5? What is the probability that we're going to find funding for the attainable housing portion? I know members of the Maurice Campground Committee say it exists, but when asked about it, we can't get any specifics. I would just state it there. What's the probability that we're going to find funding for that attainable portion, especially when we want to really get generational housing and what I would call as deeded properties? We want people to live there in families and stay there. We don't want turnover. And my concern is that the way that we're looking at this, looking at the government funding, we don't want to be doing that. I also think maybe when I say that the seasonal community designation, it talks about funding, but I don't know that any funding is going to be available and how that funding is going to work. Item number 6, what's the plan for the shell fishermen? And honestly, I wrote a letter to the select board last week and basically asking why aren't we including the shell fishermen, and why aren't we looking at other options for funding these things? And I got a response back, which was the plan is the plan, and the plan does not include shell fishermen. So again, disappointing that you can't engage and ask the questions. Why isn't there a bigger concern for wastewater and environment and impact? Can you go to the next slide? I think it's the next slide. Oh, one more, please. All right, so this is a slide that I had some other people put together. I do not want to profess to be an expert on wastewater, but it's my understanding. I have 2 pictures on this. One is the picture on the right with the big circles. Will show how the wastewater will be distributed in terms of the entire property. It's 120,000 gallons of water per day is going to be put out by this project based on the 250 units. That is a tremendous amount of water. And where's all that water going to go? We know it's going to end up going into we know that the picture below that shows how the water flows. If anybody's actually never taken a walk out in the woods and see how these water streams flow, it's actually fascinating. You'll get a pond, and then where's that water going? And then the water's going underground, and you go 100 yards later on, and there's another pond. And then, so that's the way it works. All of our water streams are really going underground. I've actually personally gone ahead and looked at these things. So part of the concern is 120,000 gallons of wastewater is going to be sent into through the culvert right into the brook, right into the bay, and it's concerning. And I would also just say I think this is a perfect opportunity to get other people who are experts in this area to engage and talk about how it's going to work. In addition, I would make the comment, when I look at the Maurice Campground Planning Committee's layout of where the buildings are going to be, it's not clear at all where where the underground systems are going to be and how they're going to be situated, and also the concern in terms of having no trees or buildings along these fingers. There's a lot of open-ended issues with wastewater, which I think are not being looked at. And again, this is clearly an example. I think we need to look at it. We need additional oversight. We really shouldn't leave it up to the developers. And again, I believe that we have a wetlands paradise, and we need to maintain it. And any plan that does not prioritize environmental impacts, I would suggest is bad planning. So can you go back up 2 slides, please? Thank you. Okay, item number 9. Item number 8. What's your concern in terms of water? Again, there's some fascinating articles going on right now. Water shortages in in Hyannis. There was quite an interesting article going on in Truro, and how's Truro going to supply P-Town. Water may be our biggest resource. Water may be limiting everything. Right now, I think the plan is we're going to get our water from Eastham. I don't know that they have any contractual obligations, and each one of these towns, I think we really need to understand and what's going to happen in Truro and where our water is going to be coming from. And again, is this the best utilization of our resources today? Would a potentially different type of or number of units be a better utility? And I do believe that one of our select board members did not approve moving forward with the funds for the Maurice Campground project in the last town vote or at the select board meeting, primarily because of concern on water. I think that's an important point. So again, the concern on water. Number 9 is, what is your take on the fact that the Maurice Campground Planning Committee is moving forward with the overlay zoning prior to having a clear plan in place? So the next slide, please. And they're looking at different options. They like option where it's the one in the middle, where they have 3 sub-districts already laid out. I understand absolutely that by having overlay zoning in place, it makes the process easier and quicker for the development. But that's, I don't think, what we want. We do not want to have a plan in place that once the town approves it, it's my belief that once the town votes, and whether it's going to come up at the April meeting or at the one day of the year, I believe once the town approves this overlay zoning, the town has no longer any kind of control over what's going to happen. And I think we lose control. I would rather wait and hold off on the overlay zoning until we actually have a plan in place that each one of these subcommittees has agreed upon, that the select board thinks makes sense, that fits all the priorities by both the Maurice Campground Committee and the ones that I listed earlier. So again, let's go back up 1 slide, please. Thank you. So that's slide number 10. Number 11, why isn't, slide number 10, why hasn't the Maurice Campground Committee engaged with the other committees as requested? The request could not have been any clearer. I mean, it really was, it was a request. I think to my perspective, it's frustrating that we can't engage. It's frustrating that dialogue is shut down. It's frustrating that the plan is the plan. And I'm going to make this comment now and also make it at the end. I think from my perspective, as somebody who does innovation development his whole career, that having multiple plans to look at and then strategizing and looking at the pros and cons of the different plans, it's just it's common sense. And so it's my perspective, what the Maurice Campground Planning Committee has gone forward with is one plan only. They've had different numbers. They had 300 units, they had 250 units, but it's always been a very high level of affordable to attainable. It's never had options of looking at shell fishermen. It's never looked at floating a bond. So I'm going to go back on that. And again, item number 10 is, I don't know why they haven't engaged. Again, we can talk about this at the end. Item number 11, why isn't floating a bond a viable option? I don't have the skill sets to look at it, but again, I've had multiple people, when I've explained to them what's going on and taking the money from the government, you lose control in terms of what's happening. Well, why isn't the town floating a bond? And again, maybe it's The financials aren't there. Maybe we float a bond for a portion of it. Maybe float a bond for 30 units. Maybe we do something different. Maybe we figure out what we can do for the shell fishermen, or we float a bond for the firemen, or maybe we float a bond and we get a smaller designated area for septic, and then we put 30 units of like over across the street. Those are nice units. Those are 2 bedroom, 2 bath, or maybe we wait and see how the seasonal designation is. But floating a bond and figure out where we get our money and controlling the plan, to me, it's common sense. We lose control. Again, as I said, I sent a note to the select board, and at least by one of the members, it was immediately, actually, maybe I shouldn't say it was shot down, but there was no response on that specific portion of it. Item number 12. What's your take on having 3-story buildings around Route 6? Again, why is this a good thing? Why is developing commercial property in front of beginning of the Wellfleet? Why is that something that would be good? I actually have a concern, which is item number 13, that if you use the concept like the village center or eligible location type of definitions, that, is this actually, I hate to say it, is it a ploy for development that's going to then allow more commercial development to happen? So again, this is more of a brainstorm comment, but items 12 and 13 are kind of linked. I don't think that, well, I know for a fact I did not have on slide number 2 in terms of looking at our priorities, I didn't have commercial development as part of the priorities. It didn't come out from Jerry's, but it clearly Jerry's comments. But it clearly is a point to that the Maurice Campground Committee is focusing on. Item number 14. Do town employees have a voice in this process? I actually sent a note to the select board this morning. I took the opportunity where, again, in all my engagement throughout the town, I've talked to teachers, I've talked to firemen, I've talked to people in offices, I've talked to DW workers, and when I ask them, do you think this plan is going to help them? Most of them say no. They either make too much money or it's not going to help. But then I say, well, can you engage? And they say they can't, and I say, why? And they say, well, because they're town employees. And I'm looking at them and say, what does that matter? And then I get this deer in the headlights kind of look. And I don't push it any further, but I am just wondering if there's a concern about retribution, that we're not allowing town employees to openly voice their concern, to be part of the democratic process. We want town employees who are, in fact, who actually live in the town, who are citizens of the town, to come out to town vote and vote. And I don't see it. When I look at who's at the town meetings, I don't see a lot of younger people. Item number 15. Do you believe that the Maurice Plan Committee is aligned with the planning board vision and strategy? So again, I would say that they're not. We have 2 different strategies moving forward. What the planning vision is, what my vision and strategy is versus the Maurice campground. Last slide, please. One more, please. Oh, yeah, so that's one. So this is my last slide. Again, I would say I'm requesting engagement from the planning board and other Wellfleet boards. To what degree, I don't know. I don't know what you have capably. I don't know what you can do legally. I don't know what you can do in terms of voting. I don't know what you can do, but you have a role to play. As I said, it's part of your charter. What's our next step? Because the Maurice Planning Board Committee is moving forward, all guns, all full speed ahead. They want to get the zoning in place. They're not engaging other people. It's frustrating. How do we incorporate new data from the housing coordinator? I think it's fantastic that the new housing coordinator position has come on board. I know she's still trying to get data together. I'm not sure what the data is going to say, but I believe it's not going to justify the 175 houses of affordable that's currently in the plan. How do we engage in joint discussions? How do we engage joint discussions on floating a bond or land trust or wastewater or water itself? How do we define the appropriate number of affordable homes? As I said before, I think we should not have any more than 100 because it skews things away from opportunities for the shell fishermen or attainable or teachers. I would max it out. What's the appropriate housing mix? Same comment. What's the economic analysis of current expenditures? I don't know if you realize this, but at the last town meeting, I got up and tried to get the town to recognize that we're spending a lot of money on this project and before we have the right strategy in place. And that's concerning. It's not how I would spend my money. I made the comment that, they're just using free cash. Well, free cash is not free, guys, people. Free cash comes from our coffers and it can be spent on a lot of different things. And I have a concern about where the expenditures are going. How do we include the shell fishermen? And I am glad to say that shell fishermen are now, I believe, engaged. I know that they've sent a letter to the select board, we need the shell fishermen to come out. They are required to live in the town. There's no other people in the town required to live in the town, and we're telling them we're not going to help you on housing. It just baffles me. Hands up in the air. What other committees can we engage? Can the planning board help with a new plan that puts Wellfleet first? And then my last comment is I don't think we need one plan. I think we need a multiple set of plans that we can talk about pros and cons on. Ones that were maybe ones that have more attainable, ones with lower number of units. So again, I'm hoping that the planning board takes input. We can go back to any portion of this presentation that you'd like to dialogue on. Again, as I said up front, I am so happy to be able to make this presentation. I feel it in my heart that I want to do the right thing. I want to vote yes. I want to support town. I want Wellfleet first. So with that being in mind, I am done officially running this presentation. Thank you. Anybody, or Jerry, how would you like to do it? Do you want to manage this discussion through here?
I'd like to, I think I need to make some clarity here. I appreciate all the comments in your presentation of mine over the past years. But I would like to make it clear and ask a question directly to you, Brian, since I've been quoted in this presentation quite a bit. Have I at any point had any input into, other than my comments you've taken from other meetings, did I have anything to do with this presentation?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
The only thing I did, as Jerry said, can I set up a meeting? We talked about the one in the past was postponed because of the Zoom. You told me you're having a meeting on January 7th. I then talked to Jennifer. Jennifer said, no, it's not January 7th, it's January 21st. I sent back and forth, and so absolutely not. You did not. All I did was extract quotes from you. You had absolutely zero input, planning of anything in this presentation. I am coming forward as a concerned citizen of my own.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make that positively clear to the members here that sit on the planning board, to the general public as well. I think that there was, Ann Schiffenhaus put on a meeting at Preservation Hall, which we will talk about after this, because a few of the members were there. I'd like to have them give their take on what they heard. But I think as was mentioned in this, and I will go back to this immediately, but with Maurice's campground really consuming most of the discussion on what's going to happen, that more of the general public and Wellfleet, such as Ann putting on this program and preservation, such as this presentation to the planning board, I think these kind of inputs are really necessary to get the points out to as many Wellfleet people as we possibly can. So I'm going to ask board members, since Brian has completed it, any questions you want to ask Brian?
Yeah, just a clarification.
Keep looking right at that mic, Evan, thanks.
Oh, yeah, what do you mean by, could you just define what you mean by generational housing?
Family that we have families that can stay for years. That that they're gonna that people are gonna grow up in that house. And I think with again, my perspective is apartment living. You have a lot of turnover. I want families that are gonna keep their families here. I want firemen to be able to stay, raise babies, have those babies go to college, and come back to Wellfleet. And have a places to live and basically figure out how to have affordable housing, which I don't think we have in today's environment.
Could I just
Absolutely.
ask, I don't know if it's for Brian or I just want to make clear where we are in the process. Because what the committee is doing now is developing an RFP to send out to developers. So my understanding is that so the part of it that is maybe going to happen before the developer submits a more complete plan is the zoning overlay. Now, am I correct? Is that where we are in the process?
I have no idea where we are in the process.
I can tell you. Okay.
I can speculate from the information I have, but I will go back to Brian's statement, and let me get the date correct since I was quoted. This planning board requested a meeting from Maurice's Campground at a meeting on 1/15/2025 that the planning board requested at that meeting that they look into a subcommittee. We additionally asked them to keep us up to date on plans. We wanted a copy of the most recent plans sent to us immediately so we could start looking at it and input. 1 year, 1 month to the date, not a single word has come to the planning board. Not a single plan has come to the planning board. And they continue to go in their direction. So my opinion is if we took the time as a planning board to request a meeting with Maurice's Campground to evaluate, as the charter requires us to do so, economics in the town of Wellfleet, and we get pushed aside and said, no, we're not going to do what you ask. I think I look at it and say, well, if you're going to do that to the planning board, then I believe a lot of the people that have come up to me and to other people and have said, we're stymied because we don't get anywhere. So I think the lines of communication have dropped by the wayside. As chair of the planning board, I try and keep the planning board members informed as much as possible. I was not aware until I heard just recently that the Maurice's Campground was starting an overlay district. Come to find out, they've requested or have $50,000 for someone to come in and change the zoning. We have a planning board. This is what we do with zoning bylaws. We have a town planner. This is what we do. We volunteer our time. So I think somewhere along the line, and I think the reason the planning board should be a lot more involved in this project, or any project of this size, is that we're not the enemy here. We serve this in this capacity to help the town of Wellfleet. That's what you've all done. You've given up your time to sit here, listen to people, work with zoning, and continue to make Wellfleet a great place to live. And I don't appreciate being shut out. I'll say that as simply as I can. So I don't know if everything that I've heard before, this is a 40B project. Will be a 40B project because that's where the money comes from. So if it's a 40B project, zoning does not matter. It isn't even in the equation. The state will overlook it completely. It's like a town doesn't have any zoning whatsoever. So why and try to, this particular zone is 40,000 square foot, single-family lots, no commercial property, no duplexes, no apartments, no multifamilies, and try and do an overlay district to meet a particular unit number. If you're going to do 40B, or even a half of this is 40B, let them come in and do it. That's what the town of Wellfleet wants. Go to the Board of Appeals. They're in charge. And waive whatever restrictions you have to. Every last 4-unit last 4-unit habitat on Old Kings Highway, took 7 years to get through, came to the planning board twice. Originally it was 3, but took it to court, they redid a plan, took it to 4, and did a 40B. It's 15,000 square foot lots in an area that's 30,000. Zoning got waived. Roads got waived. So if we're going to do a 40B project here, why spend $50,000 to do an overlay district for a friendly 40B? 40B is a 40B. Most of them aren't friendly. So I think that those are some of the problems I have in trying to make a decision on a project of this nature, is getting information. And I think this is one of the reasons why I think people are moving very fast, is they don't really want a lot of the input or afraid of the input. So those are some of the things I was going to bring up, but if you don't, and I'm bringing it up now because it doesn't seem you have any more questions for Brian, but I certainly would like to not eliminate, if you don't have any questions at this moment, continue to discuss the subject, but have the ability, if Brian would be willing to stay on the rest of the meeting as far as we talk about it, to at least continue with the conversation that we were going here. So, but I'm going to ask again of members, if before we kind of kick this around, any questions that come to your mind for Brian? Okay. Yep. Bonnie?
Well, I have, various points, Brian, where I agree with you, and others where I'm either puzzled or disagree. But I don't think that that's the purpose of this meeting, really, to lay all that out. I mean, I do think that it's up to the Maurice's Campground Committee to answer those questions. Because my understanding, just on the wastewater, my understanding was that the agreement with Eastham is solid, and that the water treatment plant would actually contribute to Wellfleet's efforts to reduce nitrogen in the water. So I was puzzled by that. But, the details of that have to come from the developer. We set the parameters so that there's no environmental damage. And, the RFP can have flexibility in it so that there are 3 or 4 possible plans in the RFP, I think. And at some point, the town of Wellfleet, the committee and the select board really will have to, and it would be great if this committee could be involved too, would decide on which RFP to accept. And that's where we'll have, because the guidelines were, in my view, very democratically arrived at. There were a lot of community meetings. There was a lot of opportunity for input. And so the guidelines, so, there's a lot of other different points I can make, but I think I agree with Jerry and with you that our original idea of having a bunch of the town committees have a subcommittee and have the opportunity to regularly weigh in, I agree with you. I totally support that. I think that's what should have happened. I mean, I don't think it would be useful at this meeting to go into, like, all of the details. Yeah.
I don't feel I'm going to let that happen anyway.
Right.
This was a presentation, sort of like what, and Bonnie, you were there, I was there.
Mm-hmm.
Beth was there.
Yeah.
I think those were the 3 of us that were there. You weren't there. So we will make a report. We'll tell you what we heard. But I think this is almost like Preservation Hall that we went to. It was a number of questions. It was a number of ideas thrown out on the table as to where Wellfleet wanted to go, not just necessarily on Maurice's campground.
Right.
I don't think that was overly beaten up at all. I think the preservation meeting was more, or that meeting was more or less, where does Wellfleet want to go? Where does it want to be? We have an awful lot of private, town-owned land still. How do we develop it? Do we develop it? Do we put it out to developers? Whatnot. Ideas of that nature for all of us to think about and come back to. And I think that was a very good start, and I think Ann, in her position, did a very good job.
Yeah.
I've spoken enough at this moment.
Bob
Since-
Dupree has his hand up.
Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I may ask the presenter a couple of questions?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'd like to know, were you in attendance to any of the 3 community meetings that were held in 2024?
I went to the last 2.
Okay, so there were over 400 people who attended these meetings, and this is how the plan was developed through community engagement. And I just want to say that I am a member of both the Planning Board and the Maurice's Campground Planning Committee, but I'm not here to speak on behalf of the committee. This is not my job. That would have to go through the committee and the chairperson. These are my personal questions to you. So you were there when the discussions took place that led to the plan being developed by Studio G. Are you also an abutter to the development?
I am.
So it may be possible that some of your comments could have to do with the presumed disruption that will take place over the years during this development?
My focus is really on, again, what's right for Wellfleet. So no, I would push back on the abutter being the
Okay.
concern. I appreciate you saying that. I also would make the comment on, and I have to do it politely, but that third meeting of the group was a very difficult meeting for anybody who was not aligned with the project. The Studio G spent 35 minutes talking about pictures. Each of the members of the Maurice Campground Committee each got up maybe 3 times. We're given as much time. I tried to talk for 4 minutes and I got kicked off after 3. So, Bob, again, I'm not trying to push back, but I don't think that that was a fair process. As I said, I think it was a stacked deck. And and I understand where you're coming from. And that's why we need to have a democratic process to figure out what's the right thing. And I'm here to try and engage more people with my like-minded nature, such that when it does come up for town vote, that the people in the town will be able to appropriately make decisions, and do so without any concern of how their neighbors are going to be thinking. So I push back on the concern of being in a butter. And again, as I said, I voted from square one to move forward. I am a big brother in the community. So that's important for me. I am a coach of U11, U13 boys lacrosse. I participate in a lot of different music activities, art activities. I love Wellfleet, and so from that perspective, I think everybody is in a butter to this project, and we really have to be concerned wholeheartedly that we have again, I would say it, a Wellfleet first. We need to get shell fishermen. We need to get teachers. We need to figure out how we help the people in the town who need the help, and that's what I'm in favor of.
Okay. The last comment I'll make is about the quotes that you pulled out and put in your presentation. Yeah, I'm not very comfortable with just extracting quotations because, as we all know, things can be taken out of context. So I understand, your reasoning for doing so, but I'm still just a little bit uncomfortable with that. And the final thing I'll say, you say that you believe that the development should put Wellfleet first. I don't know who you think is being put first, if it's not Wellfleet.
Well, again, I think we need to have focus on the shell fishermen. They're not put first. I think we need to figure out how to get housing for the teachers and the firemen, and floating a bond potentially can do that. We need to be control of the money that we are spending, so that we can really figure out how we get people in the town and what portion of the 460 are actually. There's a lot of people in the town who need help. I recognize that. Taxes have gone up, et cetera. I don't know how selling their house, but there's a lot of people in the town who do not feel that this plan helps them. And so again, I would make that comment. With respect to the quotes, I have those videos. I have snippets of those video, Bob. I can send them to you. They're pretty accurate. I have no concern that they're not accurate. I had other quotes that I could have put in there which were very negative from the other side. I decided not to make this an us versus them perspective, and I wanted to really keep it on a positive up level, which I think I have done. And I'm really just trying to voice my concerns and looking at other options.
Okay. Well, thanks for the presentation. And I'm sure I'll leave it to Jerry, but I'm sure the planning board will take this into consideration. But thanks
you.
for the presentation.
Yeah, and I can stay on, Jerry.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Well, I got you and Dawn, just because I tend sometimes to not focus on that screen and get you guys involved. Dawn, any input, any questions specifically?
Honestly, I was a little surprised that this was on the today's agenda. I think I have to personally catch up on what the Maurice's Planning Committee has been doing. over the past several months. I didn't get a chance to review the video of the planning board meeting uh, with the Maurice's Planning Committee in attendance. That meeting, I haven't seen the video. I have to go back and look at that. I didn't see a lot in the minutes that would have explained much about that meeting. All I can say is right now I have to really catch up on what the Maurice's Planning Committee is doing and find out exactly where it stands and what the next steps are. Because it sounds like we've opened the door to renegotiating the requirements back to day one. There are some issues that haven't been addressed and maybe should be addressed, and it's a little confusing to me right now. Right now, I thought we were more organized in what they were doing. So I'll just leave it at that.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
I just want to make the comment, there's more than one member of the Maurice Campground Committee who is not aligned with their plans. And so at least we have somebody on there and who's basically, I know, is sending notes to the select board and others. So I think articulating, getting input from various members of the Maurice Campground Committee would be very, very important.
And Dawn, I can say, even though you did not see or review that meeting on the 15th, I think most of the members sitting at the table who were there at that meeting are feeling as unknowledgeable as to what's been happening since that period of time. You're not alone.
Okay.
You certainly are not alone. Okay.
I may have actually missed the meeting. I may not have been on Zoom, or it may have been. I would have been here in Florida in January. So,
But again, I also want to comment that was a year ago.
yes.
And to ask to get together, I'm not trying to,
No.
control the conversation, but that was and again, I have those videos. I have the video where basically the comment is of the Bible and it being, basically the plan is, and we need to have the engagement of other committees. So I can send that video on. So I don't have to watch all 2 hours.
Town website.
Oh, I can speed through it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bring it back to the board. Bonnie? No?
No, I,
No, I was going to ask you about Pres Hall meeting.
oh, yes.
No, I'm moving off of Brian's right now. I've asked him to stay if he
Okay.
wants to in case we come up with a question, but I'm moving on at least while we're on this kind of
Yeah. Well,
discussion.
Yeah.
What did you come out of that meeting with?
Well, the new thing, one of the things that came out of the meeting for me was that there is actually a huge demand for this kind of housing because of how many. Oh, I need to be closer? Sorry.
Sorry, just, may I, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Should we close the discussion and meeting with Brian and then open the new meeting?
And if you're planning on doing it, there are a few people who have their hands up. I don't know if you wanted to recognize
Oh, okay,
comments.
wait a minute, all right. Number one, this is still a planning board meeting, and it is not a advertised hearing situation. So where an advertised hearing, general public has an absolute right to speak. As chair, I can curb the time and numbers of times that individual speaks. But this is a regular meeting of the planning board, so I'm not sure that we have to close that particular segment. I am amiss of not looking over and getting the fact that people in the audience wanted to ask some questions regarding Brian's presentation. And if that is the case, this is the appropriate time to ask him those questions through the chair. So if you can find out who wants to do that, and they acknowledge their name, then I'll proceed to open that up to that discussion.
The first ones who had their hands up were John and Martha. And John and Martha, please give us your full name.
John Schuster and Martha Roman, 400 Lieutenant Island Road. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
but
we can.
Can you repeat your last name, John?
Schuster.
Schuster. Thank you.
I don't have questions for Brian. I just had comments for the board. If
That is fine, John.
Okay. So I would just encourage you all, so I see that you're not all up to speed on the Maurice's, what's going on. I would just encourage you all to, watch some of the meetings are online, and then also the Maurice's campground page has all kinds of related documents that are posted, such as the Eastham, the drinking water agreement. It's up to date now. It's got a lot of good information. But one of the things that, okay, so specifically, I think it was the January 7th meeting where Ken and Ryan, who is the consultant who's doing the zoning overlay, she presents on that. So if you watch that meeting, you can see what's being presented. I want to express some. I mean, my wife and we support everything that Brian said, but I have a special concern is that if the zoning is changed for the commercial properties along Route 6, and they are served by a municipal septic system, because that is the plan right now, is the plan is for a system up to 120,000 gallons per day. So initially they were looking at needing maybe 50,000, but there's a lot of interest in expanding the size of that. So that's something that I think the planning board should be looking at carefully, the impact on the commercial properties and the language of that zoning. I think if the zoning is changed, that it should be, carefully restricted. Otherwise, there's no telling what might end up going in right there. We have other concerns. I mean, we're extremely concerned about the environmental impact of, the scale of the project. Just as Brian is saying, I mean, there's a huge difference between a development that would require a 50,000 gallon per day septic system and 120,000. Lawrence Hill, I think, is a maximum of 35,000 gallons per day. So just to give you some idea of the scale. And, it's right on the Silver Spring Brook. That is all natural heritage, it's priority habitat, and it goes right under Route 6 and some little culverts there, and then the Wellfleet Bay Sanctuary is right downstream, and then the marsh. So we have a lot of concerns about the scale of the project, the wastewater, and yes, the drinking water agreement. Of course, the plan is to bring the water in from Eastham, but it's
50 million gallons a year.
50 million gallons. It is a little ironic that on the south end of town, the plan is to get 50 million gallons a year of drinking water from
Another town.
From Eastham, and then on the north end of town, Truro wants to get water from Wellfleet, and P-Town wants to get water from Truro. I mean, water is. I don't think the water and the wastewater are being taken into account on the scale of the project, and I mean it's mind-boggling. And I don't want to go on too too much. I wasn't intending to speak, but thank you very much. And I would encourage you to get up to speed on some of the things. And then also, I mean, Bob's on the committee, so maybe Bob could brief you on the status at each of your meetings, kind of provide an update, because he's there at most, if not all, of the meetings.
Could I just jump in here? This is Martha Rollman.
Yes, Martha?
I just want to add about the wastewater system. This is going to be a huge wastewater system that will not just be for commercial and residential properties on the site itself. It will also, as envisioned, be tying properties across Route 6 into it. And these systems are they're not designed and do not have the technology to remove contaminants like PFAS and pharmaceuticals and other CECs, which are contaminants of emerging concern that will also be going into this system. And, please take into account the location of this site. It's 1/2 mile from the Wellfleet Bay, and the effluent from the system will be flowing right into the Silver Spring Brook, which flows into the Wellfleet Bay, So if you haven't actually gone to look at the brook and the layout, I really encourage you to do that. And also that intermunicipal water agreement is available on the Maurice's registry with their documents. And I encourage you to take a look at it. Thank you.
Just for a point of information, John and Martha, the proposed, what limited information I have, but the overlay district, to the best of my knowledge, that is being worked on by Maurice's Campground is solely for those 20 acres at Maurice's. That's why it's an overlay district and not the entire district. Again, the Maurice's Campground is not in a commercial district. It's in our district, R2, which is 40,000 square feet. Commercial across the street, unless they were included in the overlay district, would not be allowed any type of density that Maurice's is trying to change zoning on for that particular property. That overlay district for them would include apartment buildings, multifamilies, such as duplexes, triplexes, townhouses, as I said, apartments. No commercial is allowed, so if they were going to expand commercial, that would be within that overlay district as well. So just so you know, and a little bit of clarity, is that that overlay district is restricted, at least to my knowledge at the present time, strictly to Maurice's 22 acres.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Is it all right? If it's all right for me to, so I would just encourage you to look at the presentation. I mean, my understanding is that I think it's going to be structured that it might be 3 different votes at town meeting. So I think there's some different components to it, but I have to go back and rewatch that again, because it was a very dense presentation. I don't know if Bob can shed any light. I'm not sure if I don't remember if he was there at that meeting, but that's not what I understand, Jerry. I understand that they absolutely want to look at, the plan is to extend the town sewer to the motel next door and then the cinema and drive-in properties across the street. And I think the Route 6 properties, I think they're looking at changing the zoning because the plan is to have some commercial development there, kind of a village center kind of a arrangement. So
Well,
I
you're
think
reconfirming, John, in my mind, and I think probably in other planning board members, but I won't speak for them, is there in itself lies the reason the planning board needs to be involved in this kind of zoning process, because we represent zoning for the entire town of Wellfleet. And now with Route 6 being reconfigured, the state does not involve Wellfleet or the Board of Selectmen or the Town Planning Board in their renovation of Route 6 and changing of center islands, right-hand turns, which it needs to be done, but we now potentially have a major, just as we're standing here at this moment in time at the Eastham Wellfleet line with a traffic light that will be hit by Button and going down from Eastham into that area of the exit at the drive-in theater and in a traffic island in the middle. And now with the density of commercial property that could go on to the drive-in theater, part of that drive-in theater may or may not be some property at some point probably will hit the market. But then with Maurice's, with this kind of volume, I noticed that 250 units, it was 400 plus residents, 250 units, start with the one bedrooms, you're looking at more like 500 to 650 individuals living there. So just the cars alone coming out of that project are going to be absolutely a nightmare at that particular location, never mind what happens with the drive-in theater. So I think that's a stronger reason why the planning board wanted to be involved in this type of planning, and especially in zoning bylaws that may affect Maurice's or changes to the other zoning outside of that area. So I will make sure I stay on top of that for the planning board, and I'm sure the planning board members will as well.
Bob Dupuy has his hand up.
Yes, Bob.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to share in the chat the link to the project's development website, but I'm not allowed to use the chat feature. So, but I could just say that if anybody wants to follow, just go to the town's website, and you can click on the link from the town's website to the Maurice's Planning Committee. And then from there, there's a link to the campgrounds development page site.
Okay.
I'll post that, Bob.
All right, thank you.
Then Lauren Arcomano also had her hand up.
Lauren?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say for those of you who don't know, my name is Lauren Arcomano. I am a new member to the Maurice's Planning Committee.
Okay.
I represent the only tenant on that committee. We have 4 second homeowners, and the rest are full-time Wellfletians. Everybody.
So when you say, Lauren, when you say, just for clarification for me, when you say tenant,
I rent. I am a renter.
Okay.
I am the only one on that committee that does not own a home in Wellfleet. I am housing insecure.
Are you renting in Wellfleet at the present time?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
So
go ahead.
My only point is, at the last Maurice's committee meeting, I specifically asked, why aren't we meeting with the planning committee? And was told by Bob Dupuy, well, he's on the committee, he represents them. So in as much as you have a member who's on the Maurice's and aren't getting updates or aren't being informed, there's certainly a breakdown in communication. There's a lot of good information out there. The fact of the matter, there's been no traffic study. There's so little being done, and it's just being pushed forward. And I really encourage the members of this board to show up, because we're being railroaded. And if you ask, did I participate in these meetings? Over the 3 Maurice's meetings, And the last town meeting, at each meeting, there were 6 people in the room who represented people who needed housing. Everybody else there was securely housed. So again, a lot is being pushed forward. People have an agenda. People want to get this done. And I think this planning board needs to step up and in whatever capacity is possible to say, let's examine the data. Thank you.
All right, Lauren, thank you very much. For a little clarity, the meeting, I think it was 6:25, as Brian put on the sheet here, that I was reappointed to the planning board, 6:25, June 25th, 2025. They reappointed me for an additional 5 years. I believe at that same meeting, and it maybe was the meeting before, that Bob was appointed as an individual, as an alternate to the Maurice's Campground Committee. He was not appointed as a representative of the planning board. I'm not even sure, honestly, whether or not the Board of Selectmen even knew Bob was a member of the planning board as an alternate. One of the problems, and we have some new members on the board, but we've got some old members who aren't right here right now. When Maurice's came up, originally, one of the planning board members was on the planning board, was supposed to be making reports back to the planning board. It did not work well. Therefore, it was my feeling, as well as the planning board, to have a meeting with Maurice's this time around so that just one member was not being the messenger, that the entire planning board was in discussion, I'm just going to say eye to eye with the Maurice's Campground, so we all knew and heard exactly what was going on. It did not put the burden on an individual who is a member coming back into reporting. I felt as a chair that the planning board in its entirety should be kept informed by Maurice's Campground, and that was the reason for our meeting and request on January 25th, 2025. Just point of clarity. Who else do we have there?
We have Chris Merle.
Hi, Chris. Can you hear us?
Great.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, and you?
Good, thanks. So I appreciate that Brian did that presentation today. I believe that he, I don't know Brian, I've never met him. I do know that he's been getting involved with this, potentially because he's in a butter. But I think all of what he's saying is what a lot of people in Wellfleet are feeling right now, and that they're not being heard. And I'm not in a butter. I've lived in Wellfleet my whole life. I do own my own home, and I do have several affordable rentals that I rent year round, and I am concerned about affordable housing. I think that I have attended all the Maurice's Planning Board meetings and watched them over. I've been on these roundtable meetings before in the planning groups, and I don't really believe that they were listening and had taken people's input and put it to good use. I think that a lot of what's going on in Wellfleet right now is people want to see affordable or attainable home ownership, personal home ownership, that people can be proud of their homes, raise families here, and pay into the tax base. I don't think Wellfleet should be footing the bill for or letting a developer go do 40B or an overlay. I think we need to be very cautious on what we're building in Wellfleet, and it needs to meet the needs of Wellfleet. I'm a shell fisherman, and there are a lot of shell fishermen who are concerned about housing and affordable housing. And I just don't believe that the plans that they're going forward with right now, whether you use one of the two plans, the loop or the circle, neither of them are addressing affordable home ownership. They have 7 buildings in there that's potentially for affordable. I don't know if it's home ownership. It doesn't say affordable, attainable, any of that. But I don't believe that they're addressing any of the concerns that have been brought up to them at these meetings. And the Maurice's planning group too, like I say, I've been attending it. They only attend by Zoom because some of the people aren't even in the country. And it makes it very hard. They have their meetings at 4:00, which for a working person is very hard to attend. I've tried to attend from my phone several times and haven't been able to make comments when I've been trying to make comments in the beginning because you're allowed 3 minutes in the public comment, and none of your questions are ever answered. And they don't have in-person meetings. They had no way of getting in touch with them at all. They don't have a board email. Maybe they do now because I've been complaining about it for the last couple of weeks, but there was no way to even get in touch with them and interact. And as far as what Bob was saying about, did you go to the meetings? I did, and a lot of other people did. And there's a lot of people are really worried about moving forward with the plan as it is. I don't know why you would move forward with a plan that the town's not behind, and why on top of that you would go out for an RFP on a plan that the town's not behind. This is just too large a scale and has too many environmental issues to be overlooked. And I appreciate Brian asking you guys to get involved. And I would just like to ask you guys to get involved too. We're in a really tough situation of them trying to steamroll forward with this and pretending like it's what everyone wants in town. And no one that I've talked to, and I've been very vocal on this issue recently, and there's no one that wants to see 250 units. They just don't. It doesn't fit Wellfleet. So I really, really encourage you guys to get involved. And I would be a little bit upset with Bob Dupree, being as they were saying, he basically is a liaison to you guys, but you guys have no idea what's going on with what we're pretty much no idea. You have to get up to speed. You admitted it yourself, and you have one of your members who hasn't been bringing the information back to you. That's concerning. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Chris, can I ask a question?
Yes.
You're chair of the Shellfish Advisory Committee.
I am.
You know, my son is a shell fisherman.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I know Matt well.
With Lawrence Road now effectively built, potentially rented out, of 49 units, 45 units, and with the proposal of some 250 units at Maurice's, with those involved, be careful, Jerry, with those involved in the shellfish industry, whoever that person may be, it, in my mind, does not, neither project lends itself at all to the shellfish industry and those working in it to live in those and work in those two projects. We know the amount of property it takes to store shellfish equipment. We know the noise sometimes in getting those oysters to market, what it takes to get them to market, the trucks you have to use. It just seems to me that that segment of the population in Wellfleet that contributes a tremendous amount of money, keeps a lot of people working, neither one of those projects lend themselves to that segment of the population. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're completely right, Jerry. And we also have to think about the tradesmen too, and our first responders and our town employees. It doesn't lend to any of those. working people who actually do need to have a truck in the yard and or a little area for storage. It doesn't lend it to at all. And I'm blown away that we're thinking about going 40B and letting some developer whack up Wellfleet and make money off of this. It just blows me away that Wellfleet would even think about putting 3-story buildings as a welcome to Wellfleet sign. I'm just blown away. It doesn't meet the needs of the Wellfleet people at all. And I'm afraid that we're going to end up with people here who didn't live here to begin with. And I understand we have to, housing in our general area, whether it be the Lower Cape or whatever it is. I mean, we have to open our doors to people, but I don't think we should be shipping them in from all around the country. Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Chris? Okay.
I'd like to.
Absolutely. Before I take anybody else from the audience, Al has a comment?
I'd just like to throw my weight behind that concern that the type of housing isn't appropriate for a number of industries that provide sustainable incomes to people in the town. I've been mentioning to people outside of meetings, but in my private interactions with people, shellfishing specifically, but also people in the trades, landscapers. These are some of the larger industries that provide a large amount of people out here with incomes that enable them to live out here. And the type of housing that is being discussed just has no space whatsoever for those, for people with those careers to support and grow those careers. So if we want a young person to live in one of these houses and say they're in the trade that I'm in, construction, where are they supposed to grow their business from? Or are they supposed to always remain an employee of a larger company based somewhere else? So this has always been a concern of mine, and I'd like to thank Chris for bringing that up.
Okay. Who else?
We have Tim Sayer.
Tim?
Hello, good evening, and thank you for your time. I am a member of the Maurice's Campground Committee. I did meet with you 13 months ago when we had the joint meeting.
Yes,
and
you did.
I heard you say we need to have people subcommittees. I brought that up at the next meeting, asked to have it put on the agenda. I've asked multiple times to have it put on the agenda. It has never been put on the agenda. And you hear the word steamroll? Believe that word, steamroll. Okay? All of the comments that have been made tonight are what I'm hearing from everybody else that's talking to me. They were talking about 200 units, like you said originally. That was no, we want much more. That went to 300. Then they cut it back to 250. Okay, at 250, your numbers are right. 625 people. All right. That's a huge increase in the population of this town. And they tell you all those people will come from this town. But I'm going to point to Lawrence. Lawrence Hill, 292 applications. So I'm just going to round it off to 300. All right. 80 of those came from Provincetown, Truro, Wellfleet, Orleans, and Eastham. 100 of them came from Harwich all the way to the bridge. And 120 of them, or 40% of all applications, came from people that do not live on Cape Cod. And I don't know how we get you involved. I've asked and asked and asked. I've asked for those subcommittees, and I'll continue to ask. But I just want you to know that so far they just pretend like they can't hear me talking. All right. John Schuster, who's talked at the beginning of this making comments, was shut down in his public comments the last time and was told to email his comments to only one of the board members. Now, if he emailed them to that board member, none of the rest of that board has received those comments that he emailed. If he didn't email them, I understand why he didn't. I could go on and on tonight, but I just wanted to make those comments there. Thank you very much. You have a great evening.
Thank you. Anyone have a question for Tim?
I have one.
Bob?
Tim, have you been on that committee from the beginning?
I have been on since day one. I was not a voting member until Heather Doyle or Heather Lewis Doyle stepped down, and then I became a voting member. But I've been on the committee since day one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jen?
Okay, I don't know if you want to hear Brian again, but he has his hand up, and so does another member of the public.
All right, before I hear from Brian, because Brian's going to probably answer a question or something, let me hear from the other individual first, please.
Okay, it's L and J Day.
Well, this is basically
Yes.
everything on the menu.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. My name is Lori Day, and my husband is James Day. That's Ellen J. Day. I just want to make a quick comment. The number of units is what the Maurice's Campground Master Plan calls for as being a, quote, target. So when they say 250, it could be 260, it could be 270. It's only a target. So I think that's important for people to understand too, that they're giving developers a bit of flexibility here. And that's all. Thank you very much.
You're correct. From what I understand, when an RFP goes out on projects of this nature, it's a request for proposals, and they're giving a basis to work off of, but they don't have to follow that exactly. They can come back with whatever program they choose to say, we'll submit a bid, but this bid is going to be different, and we want X units. So yes, it is a target, but that's only a target. Okay. Anyone else?
From the public, just Brian.
Okay. Brian?
Yeah, I was going to ask Chris Merle to confirm that the shellfish community is required to live in town. And that is, again, I mentioned it before, but I want to make sure everybody on the board understands that. Here we have a community critical to who we are. And so I'm asking Chris just to comment on that again, please.
Do you want to allow that, Jerry?
Oh, sure. I mean, I can answer it, but I'd rather have it come from Chris. Absolutely true. If Chris is still there.
He is.
Okay.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, Chris, you want to answer that question?
Yes, no, Brian is completely right. To have a shellfish license in the town of Wellfleet, you have to live here and year-round, be a domiciled residence, in a domiciled residence. And to have a shellfish grant, you also have to have a shellfish, you have to live in town and have a shellfish license. So, it's one of the only, being as shellfishing is the largest job in Wellfleet right now, supposedly by the data, it just seems kind of crazy that we're not trying to provide something for that group. Thank you.
Chris, before you go?
Yep.
In order to
I'm
have
still
a
here.
grant in the town of Wellfleet, you must live in Wellfleet.
Correct.
To have a commercial license, you also have to live in Wellfleet.
Correct.
When you have a commercial license, I don't think, and if you would explain, I don't think a lot of people understand. Some people may think, well, you have to have a commercial license in order to have a grant, which is correct. But that doesn't mean that when you have a commercial license, you can pick. Can't pick on grants, but you can pick on public open areas. Do we limit the number of those commercial licenses?
We do not.
If a substantial, and if you don't want to answer this question, Chris, please don't. But if we were to increase substantially the number of residents between Lawrence Hill, which is now going to be at least 120 plus, and potentially if Maurice's were to go in 600, there's 700 individuals. Now, a lot of them wouldn't qualify or want commercial licenses, but if a lot of them wanted to pick the public grants or the public areas open to commercial fishermen, would that put a burden on those areas?
Yes, I would say it would. We started talking about that at our shellfish advisory, and we wrote a letter to the selectmen concerned about our concern about increases. Yeah, we'd potentially have to think about limiting the amount of licenses we have. I'm not really sure, but it would definitely put a burden on it. If we had another 100 licenses, or obviously you're not going to, out of 600 or 700 people,
Right.
they're not all going to be shellfishermen. But, even another 100 licenses would put a big impact on the resource.
Thank you. Any questions for him? Anybody else come in with any questions, Jen?
No.
Okay, so let's, as Bonnie said, she's looking at that time clock.
She's trying to get her circulation going.
Yeah, I know, because she's stiff. We could beat this for hours. We've still got a couple things to get to. They may not be as quick as I think they are, but they're quick. Where would the planning board members like to go from this point?
What is the question exactly? Are you talking?
Well, we've gotten input from Brian that, his input. We didn't get as far, and I think now, really didn't, Jerry. We didn't get to Pres Hall. So I'm going to ask you, because I know you want to get out of here, so I'm going to ask you first. What did you take from the meeting at Pres Hall?
One of the things I learned that I didn't know before, because was that
A little closer to Mike.
was that the Seasonal Communities Act really is limited in its benefits to town employees and artists. I mean, when I read the initial regulations, I thought that it gave municipalities wiggle room to add another classification of people. So, I mean, it was, and then there was a mention that Julian Cyr is fighting for an additional amendment to the legislation to have, kind of, I think, at least for the Cape, for the shellfisher community to be included in the seasonal community benefits. I mean, it's obvious. It was also obvious to me, and I remember this from the ill-fated, comprehensive planning committee, that the issue of storage was big, and there were proposals for how to do storage. So it strikes me that I'd love to see the letter that the shellfisher people wrote to the select board, because I think it's about,
We can get it to you.
Yeah, I think it'd
It's
be
public.
nice. It would be good for the planning board members to have access to that. I mean, other than that, I agree. It was a very positive meeting. It was, kind of looking to the future, kind of looking at ways to meet Wellfleet's needs. Not all the needs can be met by Maurice's campground, obviously, so, but there could possibly be something like a nice big shared storage space there for people of the trades. But I think that we have to, I think she was, the new housing coordinator was right to put the agenda more broadly, and kind of go back to the drawing board about just, what do we want? What are the goals? And we need The other thing I got from it, and I think from our conversations, is that if we want to grow the generational housing, and we want to have more families living here and more children living here specifically, that, some of those new residents will be coming from other towns. Yeah. So, I mean, I think there is a vision of a multi-generational community that is not a naturally recurring retirement community. Yeah.
I also got, consistent with what Bonnie said, was the general consensus is we need housing, but keep the housing residential in nature. That's not restricting it to single-family homes. It's a mixture, but more of the rural concept Wellfleet has now as to single-family homes, sizes of habitats, duplexes, triplexes, two-story, like brownstones, only Cape Cod style, but really try and preserve the residential atmosphere more than large projects like 95 Lawrence and Maurice's, but the need of rentals as well. So some of those could be done in 3 or 4 or 5 unit townhouse kind of concept with rentals or something of that nature, but sort of that nature. That's what I got from it. And that was we broke up into at least 7, it was either 6 or 7 different tables, but that was consistent, I felt, through the report of most of those tables. Beth, you got anything to add to that?
I agree with both of you, and one thing that I thought was good information is that hopefully the seasonal communities regulations will be promulgated soon, and I think that will be very helpful in answering.
Yeah, your mic's not on her yet.
I agree with you, Jerry, and you, Bonnie. I think it was a great informational session and brainstorming session, and I thought it was very helpful and encouraging to find from HLC that the seasonal communities regs are hopefully going to be promulgated soon, hopefully this month, but since we're nearing the end of the month, maybe more realistically in February. But that will help to answer a lot of questions. It probably will raise some questions too, but answer a lot of questions in terms of what we can do to create more housing.
It's not an easy read. The Seasonal Community Act is an extremely involved work in progress that is going to take time for the planning board to analyze, to see what we need to do, and if we can even modify certain aspects of that for the town of Wellfleet. But it's not something you can grasp in one night. It's going to take quite a while when they finally reach a bylaw or mass general law that we can read in depth. So I think the ADU bylaw is simple in nature compared to the seasonal bylaw. All right. I do have to move on because we've got to appoint a member to a committee, but I'm going to ask where the planning board wants to go with Maurice's at this point, or do you want to think about it and bring it back at the February meeting? Bring it back?
I'd like to write a letter to the chairman of the Maurice's Planning Committee and express our desire to meet with them and establish dialogue, because we're hearing from enough townspeople that what they're up to is not above board, honestly. For my edification, and maybe for a lot of other people in town, I'd like to know what a 40B really means, and how you get one, and what sort of things the planning board can put in place to put a stop to that. Because if a developer says, I can get you a overlay district, I just need 50 grand, we'll get it done. How is that even possible?
Well, a developer, 40B developer doesn't even care about an overlay district, because a 40B frees them up of all zoning, as I said before.
Right.
Board of Appeals they could turn the project down, but basically, if you don't reach your 40B, or you don't reach your requested 10%, the state basically bends over and will grant it. I don't know of many, if any, that have ever been turned down.
They'll just rubber stamp it. Because
They
of the
have to,
housing.
yeah. And when it gets to that point, everybody thinks, well, okay, 40B's got to go before the Board of Appeals, and then it's got to go to the Planning Board, it's got to go to Conservation. Yes, that is correct. What happens with a 40B project, if it's a 40B project, it's submitted to the Board of Appeals. The Board of Appeals immediately opens the meeting and closes the meeting and continues the meeting for 30 days. During those 30 days, any board that would normally weigh in, such as Planning Board, Conservation, they have to go and make a presentation to that board. So they would make a presentation to the Planning Board. This is what we're going to do, this is what we submitted. All any of the boards can do is make a recommendation. That's all we can do. We can say, gee, the density's too much. Gee, apartments aren't allowed in that district. Gee, you need more parking. That gets filtered back to the Board of Appeals. Board of Appeals has to make the decision. Do we try and convince the developer to change it? And if the developer says no, then they either have to turn it down, and if it gets turned down, it's going to get kicked back anyway or overruled by the state, and it's done. So it's better that at least the Board of Appeals tries to make a deal with the developer of the 40B project, because otherwise, if they turn it down and it goes to the state, it's whatever they applied for. There's no
So is
medium
Lawrence
ground.
Road a 40B?
95 Lawrence Road, to the best of my knowledge, is a 40B project. I'm looking straight at Beth and getting a confirmation. Yes, that is a 40B project.
And what about the one in Eastham on Brackett Road?
That is a 40B project. Most of those projects are 40B,
And they'll look like that.
and they will look like that.
Okay.
Because Al can tell you, I can tell you, as a previous builder, the more units you put together, the less expensive it is to build.
Sure.
And they get their benefits, and it's supposed to be in the best interest of the municipality, but it ends up being in the best interest of the developer most of the time.
Bob Dupuy has his hand up.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, sorry to,
It's
again.
not a bother, Bob.
I just wanted to inform you that the Maurice's Campground Planning Committee does have a meeting next week on the 28th. And even though I don't think I'm officially a liaison between the two,
You are not. Don't, so,
I think it's probably not a bad idea. So I will bring up the discussion today I'll put it on the agenda for our next meeting. And also, if, as suggested by the planning board member, we can write that letter and perhaps get it to Maurice's to get it on the agenda for next Wednesday. I think that'd be very helpful.
I I,
You don't want to write the letter.
who? I'll write the letter in a second. No, that's not where I was going. I was going more, not that I need to protect Bob, but Bob was appointed as an at-large member, which I, again, will state, I do not believe the majority of the Board of Selectmen, Select Board, knew that he was a member of the Planning Board. So in no way was he appointed to that as a liaison, because a liaison could only be appointed by us. I do not want to put Bob in a position that he's reporting back to us and have the rest of those board members upset about it, since they didn't choose to put a planning board member on it. I would much rather, if the board desires, to send a letter to Maurice's to say, what happened to our agreement on the 21st, January 21st, 25? We are now hearing it a lot louder from the general public. We want to be informed. Tell us what your plan is to keep the planning board involved in more meetings. I would rather have the planning board issue a letter direct rather than have Bob have to stand up and do that. I don't know if you're
Well, that-
prepared just to let me know, to write with town planner, a letter, strong letter
Well,
without
that-
getting out of line, that,
That sits okay with me, Jerry. That's fine. I have no problem. Do you want me, though, to bring up anything we discussed here today with the Maurice's committee or not?
Can't hurt.
can't hurt, Bob, if you feel, I do not want you to feel uncomfortable. You've been going to these meetings. I am sure you have excellent input based on your experience in what you do for a living. I just don't want you put in a position that the other members are uncomfortable with it. That's the only reason I'm going there. But I have no problem based on the fact that you are a member of the planning board. You are not speaking for the board, but you can certainly relate that we had a discussion. That
Okay.
is in your purview, yes.
I will do that. I'll do just that much. Okay.
This presentation, you can take.
Yeah, you could take the presentation even. I'm going to poll it so we can move on quickly. Bonnie, would you like to see me write a letter to Maurice's Campground to say what's happened, it's fallen through the cracks, that we're not communicating as well?
So you're both going to write a letter?
No, he's asking that we write a letter, period. He doesn't want to write it necessarily.
Oh, I see.
Just make a motion?
You can make a motion if you want. You wanna make a-
I'd like to make a motion that the planning board recommends the chair, along with town council, to write a letter to the Maurice's Campground Planning Committee along the lines of what you just outlined. Curious about where the response has been since the January 15th, 2025 meeting has been, and the concerns of the citizens that you've already voiced.
Okay. Any second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I think the central point needs to be in the motion that we would like a formal way of having regular updates and communication.
As we stated in the January 25th, 25 meeting.
Yes.
I agree with you, and that's what I
Can
would,
So if
meet
we could
and when?
add that
yes.
to the
Yep.
motion, I think that would
It will be a straightforward letter.
Good.
Take my word
Jerry?
for it. Yes, Don, how do you feel?
I agree. I'm just wondering if we need to copy the select board. Doesn't the Maurice's Planning Committee report to the select board?
That
No,
passed my mind, Don. I think with the charter,
Who do they answer to?
Well, they answer to the select board, well, they really don't answer to anybody, because the RFP really doesn't come back. Once the RFP comes back, it comes back to the Maurice's Campground for acceptance. They pick it. Board of Selectmen really doesn't have any input on it. However, the 8.6.2 in the charters, remember, says that the planning board shall make recommendations to the town meeting and to the town administrator on all matters. So I suppose it wouldn't be a bad idea to copy them to let them know that we had requested that the Maurice's Campground stay in touch, keep us informed, and they haven't. And that's due notice. So if we're upset, I would believe that the select board should be upset as well. One board has asked, a regulatory board has asked for information certainly under our ability, under the general laws, charter. We could ask, in theory, we could ask for economic proposals from Maurice's Campground before it goes out for an RFP. What is the thinking, and get something from fire department, police department, rescue, DPW. What is the economics effects and our school system of an additional 250 families, X amount of children? What is the tax flow from a developer to the town of Wellfleet, and what is the town of Wellfleet projected expenses to have that much added to our fire police? That's well within our discretion to ask for that kind of information. And these are some of the things I think when the planning board in January asked for a member of the DPW, the police department, the fire department, conservation, so we could kick all of this around and get ideas of where the end result was going to go and who was affecting. So would you consider amending your motion to include a copy to the select board?
I would absolutely amend my motion to include copying to the select.
Would you second that?
I'll second it.
Anyone opposed to it? Okay. I'll take a vote. Bonnie, you in favor of sending a letter?
Yeah.
Al?
Aye.
Yes?
Yep.
Aye. Don?
Yes.
Bob?
Oh, yeah.
Unanimous. Beth, you and I will work on that ASAP. Thank you. All right, I'm going to close that section of it. All of you in the audience that contributed or just listened, thank you very much. Your input was greatly appreciated. Bob, thank you for your presentation. Moving on.
Minutes. Oh, wastewater.
Yeah. You know, when I knew he wasn't going to be here and I got this in the mail, I said, you'd find me in one of his lobster cages in the middle of Cape Cod Bay if that happened. All right. We've been requested for a member of the planning board to appoint one of our members to the wastewater advisory group discussion. And this reminds me of exactly where we were going with Maurice's fire department, police department, health department, conservation, planning board, is to get those individuals together to brainstorm as how to approach this. So they are looking for a member. I think it's I don't have exactly right here, but I think it's a 9 or 10, seven-member board, a member of the Board of Selectmen, board would be there. Planning, I think conservation. Anybody want to volunteer? Beth, go ahead.
Jerry,
Yes,
I'll take it.
is this a committee or group that will meet by Zoom? Or can meet?
probably.
I can answer that. The first meeting will be held February 23rd, and that will be an in-person meeting.
Okay.
But the remainder of meetings
Could be Zoom.
should be hybrid.
Don, so you know, if you're interested, Bob Fitzgerald's also interested?
Okay. The reason I might be interested, and I can back up Bob also, I am on the board of a water utility here in Florida that serves
that's right.
350,
Yes.
350 homes with water and wastewater. And we manage a system of that reports to the state, obviously, for health reasons, and it's a system that's over 30 years old. And we are currently facing the requirements of upgrading pieces of the system. So I get pretty involved in this. I was president of the board. Now I'm just the vice president. But I have some I think, helpful information that would be beneficial to this group. And I'd be glad to sit on it. I won't be able to be in person on the 28th, but I can meet via Zoom through till June. I think it's important to have somebody on the board that has some experience or contact with a wastewater and wastewater system.
I have zero experience.
So I volunteer.
You know, so.
What do you think? Beth, how would we get around that? As Bob just said to me, he would do it, but it's like he's got zero experience. There is experience right there. I wonder if we could send Bob to the first meeting and then switch?
I don't have the answer to that question.
Could we do it this way? I don't think we have to vote the member. I think if you can discuss with someone the situation, we have two candidates that want to do it. One can only do it by Zoom until he gets back here, but he's got a lot of experience in this. Is there a way we can get around it?
So I can look into that and report back at the February 4th meeting.
And when do we have to appoint it by?
February 4th would be fine because the first meeting is February 23rd.
Is that okay with you? Is that okay with you, Don?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And sure, I can also sit in by phone, you know. I can be there listening and add comments.
Well, if they
whatever.
make it mandatory that we have to have somebody there and it has to be the member consistently, maybe that's what we would have to do. Bob steps
Okay.
in and then you can refer with Bob and you can be in those Zoom meetings because they're going to be open. Anyway,
Okay.
so let's get an answer on that question first and then we'll address it at the meeting on
Thank
the
you.
4th. Yes.
Just, if you're finding out from the powers that be that would know such things, it does say one at-large member, then S in parentheses. Would it be possible that we could put two people on this committee, or
Yeah, that would work.
if we could?
You got somebody in
More-
town,
Yeah.
businessman, and you've got somebody that's got that could be the at-large.
I can check on that. It would be up to the town administrator.
Good.
but I can check on that. It's a good question.
Good catch, Al.
I just can't see why less representation would be, or more representation wouldn't be better.
Especially somebody,
Right. Not using
Involved.
Don's
No
expertise or experience seems foolish. And I appreciate your
My hearing
zeal.
aid died.
okay. Any motion on the minutes of December 3rd?
Yeah, it's Bob here, Bob Dupuy. I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second that.
Any changes? If none, anyone opposed?
Nope.
Then Bonnie, Al, myself, Bob.
Yep.
And Dawn.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, and Bob, because he's filling in because we don't have a quorum. Yes. So it's unanimous.
Yeah.
Town planner report, any?
Yes, I would like to welcome and introduce our new administrative assistant.
Should have done that in the beginning.
And
I know.
Planning Board Secretary, Chulani Levinstone.
Glad to have you aboard.
And Jen has been, today's his second day. And
His
Jen-
second day?
His
Yes.
second day.
I met him
And
yesterday.
Jen has been, as usual, tremendous
Well,
training.
don't tell her as usual, but you know.
Yes, training and serving as Planning Board Secretary, and will continue to help train Chulani for another meeting or two. But thank you, Jen, and welcome, Chulani.
And I will say that you have been extremely helpful, and I thank you. And you've got a good teacher sitting beside you. You can keep up with her. We're doing just fine.
He's great already.
Good. All right, next meeting, February 4th. Anything else to come before the board? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I did it last week.
Move to adjourn.
Bonnie was just waiting to make it anyway, so. Anyone second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? No.
Yep.
Unanimous.
Let's get out of here.
Thank you all.
Recording stopped.